Hey guys, welcome back to another live Chefpreneur Show. We go live every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Welcome. Here is what is going on. We are going to talk about the personal chef industry. We're going to talk about the restaurant industry today. If our sound sounds good, let us know. Let us know. Each week gets a little fun with the old tech. So this is our host, Chef
Yeah,
Andre Sinahosa, and your co-host here, Brock
Brock
Wagner.
Allen Wagner.
Oh, great. Now they know my middle name.
How you doing, Brock?
You son of a. I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
How's your week been?
It's been good. Had a good walk up the hills today again. It was good. But yeah.
Excellent.
All right. How does it sound? How does it look? Making
Sounds
sure
good.
that everybody
Awesome.
is saying that
Hopefully
it looks
good.
okay.
We're trying some new things. Again, always iterating, trying to make sure that the quality looks good. Man, I'm excited for that sign to come in. We're going to have a nice sign up
It is
here
gonna be
real
nice.
soon.
It is
We
gonna
got
be
a little
nice.
video clip of that where they were showing us how it works and everything. I didn't know that we were going to have so many options with the lighting. It can flicker, it can do a bunch
Yeah,
of
I
stuff,
thought
which
that
is
was
kind of
pretty
crazy.
cool. And then it got really bright.
Yeah.
Like it really got bright.
Yeah, it's pretty
So
cool. You know what I'm really excited about though?
the 5-day challenge.
Hell yeah.
I
Next
am
week,
too.
5-day challenge.
I am
You know what
too.
I'm really excited about with this
I'm
challenge?
a little bit behind on my slides. I need to get my slides in order.
That's the thing. That's what I'm really excited about is the fact that, listen, like we have a 5-day challenge. If you're new to this channel and you're just tuning in or you're listening to a recording, hopefully before the end of this weekend, hopefully before Sunday. But if you're listening to this and this is your first time or you've listened to us a few times, but you've never been a part of a 5-day challenge, man, are you in for a treat? This coming Monday, June 5th of 2023, we are hosting another 5-day challenge. This is a third one that we're going to be doing this year. What's really exciting about this is in the last challenge, we have hundreds of people who register and join our challenges. In the last one, we sent out a survey asking for feedback. We need feedback. We need feedback like anybody else. And we take that feedback very seriously. And we got some really great feedback on this last challenge survey. And what's exciting about this challenge is that those first two challenges were they're structured the same, right? And here's the thing, like the content's not changing for this challenge because we know our content is tried and true. We know that the foundations of the business for personal chefs are built a very particular way that we know work and we know build real sustaining businesses. What I'm most excited about is that from the feedback, we're just restructuring it. And I think it's going to be so much better. It's constantly just going to be improved. And I'm really excited for to deliver that. And
I'm really excited.
We're trying to make it fresh. You know, we want the challenge to be fresh. We want people who have attended past challenges to attend another one, to be honest, because every time sometimes we go a little
we always go a little off
sometimes
cuff,
we have
off
things
script,
that come to our minds.
We had some feedback and we were feeling it as well to kind of like we wanted to condense it as well. We try to give you as much value, and it's not like we're just trying to talk the whole time, but we're really trying to make it a note or like more of a point to say let's try to like
let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Yeah, let's get to it. Obviously, there's mindset and there's things that we're obviously wanting to coach you on throughout this because again, realistically, it's really down to a mindset when you have a business and when you want to start a business. And then there's obviously the tactical, practical, which is we're going to be kind of talking about both, obviously, on the challenge. But yeah, I'm excited for it. You know, it's another 5 days to spend with all of you live in a private Zoom meeting or webinar. I guess that's what they call it, a webinar in Zoom. But it's exciting. So Monday through Friday of next week, starting at 2:00 Eastern time. And for those that are not good with time zones, because I get it, sometimes it's a little hard to figure it out. You have 2:00 Eastern time. You have then 1:00 Central time. Then for those of you that live up in the mountains, we have noon Mountain time and then 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So
that's the time. That's the time
that
you'd be joining.
That's the time that you'd be joining
in your time zone.
In your time zone.
Figure out where am I?
Yeah, where are you at? Where you're like? What time is it right now in Eastern time? It's 5:06.
Yeah.
So if you're in Hawaii, I think it's like.
Okay, don't no, hold on. Don't. Yeah,
I don't want to go views. If you're in Russia right now, no, I'm just joking.
That's way too far out there.
But no, it's going to be exciting.
You know, it's really great.
We're excited about
with this challenge. I think one of the most exciting and useful pieces of feedback that we got was that people were wanting to see more examples, more case studies of chefpreneurs, and we do have tons of them. Okay, so with our challenges in the past, we went through case studies and we kind of highlighted some key areas for businesses. But on this one, I'm actually going through on my slide that I did today. I'm going through and on the section that we're gonna be teaching about, how do you identify and carve out your niche,
Mm-hmm,
right? No pun
mm-hmm.
intended, but pun intended. We're gonna carve out the niche, and I use 3 different businesses that we helped build and construct, that our
Mm-hmm.
team constructed, as case studies. So we're gonna dive into the details of those businesses more and actually show live examples of everything that doing that process did for that business.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you, and I got to talk to you. We're going to go back, and I'd like to get numbers as well for these different businesses and show everybody who's going to be attending the challenge, like what's really possible when you do these things right,
Mm-hmm.
when you dialed in right. Because we talk about this every week on the show. We talk about all these different concepts, all these things that we do right that help build these businesses. And now I really want to make sure that everyone sees, okay, so what's the result of that?
Yeah.
It can be beautiful branding, beautiful business, more clients, but what is, because numbers are measuring tools, right? So I want
Yeah.
to show also financially, what's the measuring stick? What's the result of taking these and building the proper foundation and what it can really do for a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? We took them from X and now they're at Y,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's something that, again, we've talked about on the show, and we constantly talk about in the Chefpreneur program is, um, we're obviously able to help you build this successfully and the foundational parts of it. And that's the most important aspect of any business, is to build it foundationally correct. And being able to grow it, that's like step 2. And we kind of go through that a little bit in this challenge. Obviously it's a mini version of what we take in through our actual programs that you pay for and that you invest in. But at the end of it is like we're giving you so much value, because we are talking about a lot of foundational pieces like the niche, like the ideal customer, the pricing, the services. However, we do teach, how to market your business as well, which is day 5. But a lot of people that are looking to do this business, they just really don't. They really, like, I've just learned more and more as we're helping more and more chefs. The foundations are so key. Like, it's honestly, like, it's worth it enough to just build a solid foundation. Like, um, this is, again, here's my metaphors a little bit, because I've been getting sucked into these YouTube videos of it's kind of lame, but I don't know. I'm kind of a geek with a lot of stuff. This guy finds like these old bulldozers and like excavators, and then like there's another channel. He has 2 channels. Like,
Mhm.
one is like 1917 Chevrolet truck. Let's see if it runs after 92 years. And then there's like another one where it's like a 1941 bulldozer, right? That's been abandoned in some
Some
whatever,
farm.
right? Yeah. And he basically spends a 20 to 30 minute. I don't watch the whole thing. I kind of speed it up and skip ahead, because I just want to see the engine start up, because it's
Oh,
exciting,
right.
right?
Was he
But
restore them or what?
well, no, at first, like, the whole video, he does. He actually like buys and sells them and restores them.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's really well known in that, like, in his own market. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because, like, he talks about on his channel all the time that these, they don't make cars like they used to, right? A lot of them have aluminum blocks now, and like
Right.
aluminum block out there, like in the rain for 70 years in the snow, like it would disintegrate. Like, it wouldn't be like a steel block like you used to have these
Right.
massive
They might have
engines.
some rust, but can be cleaned up.
Correct. And what's crazy is, like, some of them, like a Caterpillar, I think he had for like 1950 or something like that. It was this dozer. I mean, it was like gunked out. There was like a mouse like inside the piston
Oh,
somehow.
right.
And all he did was open this up, took out the dead carcass. He like sprayed it with like WD-40s, like cleaning it out with like rags and stuff. And within 12 minutes, the thing fired up,
Hmm.
and it hasn't started in how many years.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying that is that because, like, it's the building block. It's like the engine was built so well, right? There's pieces and components of it. Like, obviously, do you want to sit there and run it with like carb fluid all day? No,
Yeah.
but it started up, and then it was like smoking. But then, like, after a little bit of just even running for like 30 seconds, it
Yeah.
started to kind of humming.
Right.
And he's like, sound of these engines, like, it actually sounds like the way it's supposed to. Okay,
Mhm.
it's just really impressive. Sometimes you can't get them to start because again, the block is like, so, one of them had like, he's like, I think this has bullet holes in it. It was kind of crazy. Probably
Oh,
somebody doing,
right. Just
shooting
shooting.
out there. Anyway, long story short, it it's because the block of the engine was built so well, right? Like, yeah, there's some spark plugs that need to be changed and all that. And most of you don't even have a solid foundation in your business. And you might think that you do, like, hey, I already have a catering company that I'm doing and I get clients. It doesn't really mean that you're a solid business. It could still be that you're hustling and side hustling. And I'm not trying to, push anybody's buttons, but maybe I am, because at the other end of it is like, if you're not really solid on the foundational pieces of your business, you can't really build everything else off of it. And we know this business inside and out. And I we're going to show you what's possible in the challenge and the testimonials that come from building a solid business and then going through. But going back to this analogy, right? Once he gets this engine running, right? A lot of times, obviously, the fuel hose and the fuel tank is corroded, right? Because it's not like a thick piece of steel. There might be holes. So it's like, okay, you put gas in, it's just going to leak out the back end.
Yeah.
But really, like, if you build a solid business, which is like the most important piece, well, then, like, if you think about what marketing is and sales is kind of like finding the gas, right, to put in the tank. That's think about if you
there's so many layers. There's so many layers.
It is because really, again, when somebody is building a business properly, and what we've seen is like, and I used to try to kind of like, hey, let's like, we do it in order with the Chefpreneur method, but I used to, as a coach, like we've learned over the years that like people really need to be guided on the building of the foundations and the blocks of it.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's like, let's worry about really putting gas in the tank when like we have a tank that's not rusted, when it's like the engine is like ready to accept the fuel and can just, and run. And so, like, again, this guy even says, like, a lot of times, like, the radiator's not spinning and you can't run it for like 30 minutes. I mean, the thing would burn up because there's no fan, there's no, antifreeze, depending on the year it is of when it's in. Right. So, like, he's just really seeing like, hey, can we get this puppy to start? And it wants to start, and then it starts. And you're like, wow, it's a cool channel. I don't know.
How these metaphors always go back to cars.
I don't know
like
why.
We talk about Ferraris, they're Ferrari engines and they just need a Ferrari body.
Or a house.
The Ferrari engine and an old jalopy.
Yeah.
The layers that I was thinking about, because wow, what a powerful analogy. And yes, our challenge is coming up. Shameless plug. Okay. Like, we're going to talk about it because we know how many lives that it changes, like, in the week. It's amazing to see the progress, but man, what a powerful analogy, because what it makes me think of as well, outside of that engine being their business, it's them.
Yeah.
Like, how many of us are gunked up?
Yeah, it's true.
We're born in most cases this perfect creation of this engine, right? And then life beats us down. There's things that gunk us up, and then we stop running.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we were a powerful machine at one point, and then all of a sudden, all this stuff, the corrosion happens, right? Parts go missing, like things get stolen from us.
Yep.
And then what are we left with? Like, we're not running anymore. But then comes along these moments, these opportunities.
Yeah.
And I see the challenge being that. I see Chefpreneur and what we're doing being that, to where the opportunity is that we help to recast that engine. We help to reform, and we clean the gunk out of you. And that's the first thing that we do during the challenge, right? Is that mindset. On that first day, you are helping to get the gunk out. We call it get the cobwebs out and have a fresh tuned machine. And then what do we do? And then what do we do? We pour the fuel in, right? And through that challenge, we're pouring fuel into a machine that's going to be running. So we're constructing, we're building, we're replacing, and then we're pouring the fuel in throughout that week. And then beyond, that's what we do with our programs as well. Is we help them build that beautiful engine, right? And we help them create that monster machine of themselves and their business. And then throughout, with the coaching and the mentorship and constantly feeding in and being plugged into a community that is like fantastic and full of other chefpreneurs who are inspiring and encouraging and successful, they're constantly that fuel that continues pouring in. And that's what keeps that engine running clean and smooth, right? You get these old cars that do you remember, like, Gone in 60 Seconds? He steals the old Shelby GT 500, right? Yeah. And it's a really high tuned machine. And there's a moment where if it's just sitting and it's idling, it'll stall out because it's got to be like it's really trying to
guys will
push
be
all
revving.
the gas
Yeah.
through. It's got
Yeah.
the RPMs need to be
Yeah.
up and high.
It's
Otherwise,
tuned.
it stalls out.
It's
It's
tuned
tuned
to,
in.
it's tuned to
It's tuned to
go.
perform.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel uh, really happens with a chefpreneur is
Yeah.
they'll
It's
be
true.
so highly tuned to perform, but just like anything and anybody else, if they sit and idle too long, right? Like they could stall out. And that's the beauty of the community that I think keeps feeding people in. That's why we have chefpreneurs who are really dedicated to showing up live on calls, live on the show,
Yeah.
and letting you guys know, like, we see you and we appreciate you, and it's fantastic that as you plug in, it's going to keep feeding that, and that is really super important. So I just love that
Yeah.
analogy, but that's that additional
And
layer
yeah.
that I kept thinking of.
And there's just, again, there's more layers and we can go on, but basically, flat out, if you feel like you're a rusty engine, maybe you've lost your dream of running, maybe you feel like you need a tune up, come to the Chefpreneur Challenge, join the 5-day
That's
Chefpreneur
right.
Challenge and help you, because we see you. We don't see you as a hunk of junk in a yard. Just like this guy on his YouTube channel, he looks at this old 40s bulldozer that's rusted a little bit and whatever. Actually, he said something that was really interesting on this video the other day, because he's like, you can slap a new yellow Caterpillar yellow paint job on it. He's like, but it's so sexy when it's not that, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously the engine he wants to restore and run it perfectly,
Right.
but he kind of, well, we don't want, we want your website and stuff on your outer image to be nicer. But I like how he said that. But we see you guys as not some chef that's been
He's
like,
not, he's not trying to change the thing that he's
he's just
up.
passionate about it.
He's trying to he's trying to bring to light what the truth is of the thing.
Correct.
Right.
And this beast, like you said, I like how you said it, this beast of an engine. I mean, it's a freaking Caterpillar bulldozer. The thing will mow down a house in 2 seconds, right?
Who's not more of a beast of an engine than a chef?
That's exactly. You listen, us chefs we are a different breed. We're a different breed because of our passion far exceeds a lot of times pain and things like that. Now, I think we can get so far into that as an identity that unfortunately it doesn't do us any good. And I think that's part of what we're battling here at Chefpreneur, is to help you guys understand that we're not here to have, how do you want to say it? We're not here to feed into this whole struggle, because we're a chef. Let's wear it as a badge of honor. We've talked about that many times in the show. That's not what we believe in. We are a different breed though, because it is just hard work, right? Cooking for people and serving for them. And like, if you worked in a restaurant, a hotel like myself, where you're sweating on the line and you're putting it in and you're putting in the hours, there's a level where it's like, yeah, when you're like in your low 20s, hey, maybe it's like, okay, I'll do this for a year, but it gets old really quick because it also stifles passion. You become exhausted and tired, and our dreams can fade away. And I think one of the biggest things that we try to do here on the Chefpreneur Show, if this is your first time tuning in, or again, maybe you're tuning in every single week and we appreciate your support, is really about, we want to reignite those dreams. We want to reignite those passions. We want to take that chef or that passionate cook out there that maybe feels, you're not, but maybe you feel like you're out in a junkyard and you're just kind of going through the motions, and you had dreams when you were younger, but you're now 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, it doesn't matter your age. And you're like, I still got these dreams, but they're really faded, right? I haven't ran for years, right? That dream machine hasn't ran for years. Well, listen, like we're trying to revive that dream machine. We're trying to get that puppy running again. And we can get you running a little bit. Like, the challenge is designed to get you up and running.
Right.
But obviously, at the end of the challenge as well, we have opportunities for you guys to work closer with us and get mentorship and coaching and really build this thing right. And that's really, again, just going back to this YouTube channel. It's exactly what this guy's doing. He's like, hey, I'm going to make a 30-minute video. I'm trying to get this engine to start, and it's going to be fun. It's going to smoke everywhere a little bit. It's going to get some kinks out. But then let me get it on the trailer, take it back to the shop, and really work on it. And that's really what the challenge is for. The challenge is to say, hey, come and join us. Let's get you started. Let's get you really diving into this, because we really believe the personal chef business space is the opportunity that is for chefs by far in the industry right now. And I don't think it's not only going to slow down, it's going to explode continually. And, you know, if we're judging on how Chefpreneur and the ambition that Brock and I have to serve, you know, thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not a million people,
Mhm.
uh, you're going to be left behind because Chefpreneur won't stop. So you're either going to
Nope.
be with us. I wouldn't say you're going to be against us, but you're either going to be with us on the side that we're going to be, you know, being able to do it together, or you're going to be left, you know, doing it on your own. And obviously there's power and strength in collaboration and numbers. Um, and so we're just excited about this challenge. We can't say it enough, you know, and part of what I wanted to talk about today on the show, Brock, which is kind of a good segue into this, is the fact that there is so much missed opportunity with people. And we've talked about this all the time. We see these gems of people and these chefs and passionate cooks, and we see more in them, unfortunately, sometimes than they see in themselves. And I was talking to Chef George today and on a coaching call, and we got into like, you know, a little bit of after kind of we discussed, you know, kind of his business and things like that. We just kind of general conversation. We're just kind of chit chatting to catch up. We haven't had a one-on-one session in a few weeks. And I was talking to him and I said, we were talking about corporations and some things going on right now personally with my sister. Shout out to Cynthia. And you know, she got approved for some insurance. It's going to help her pay this hospital bill that she needs. So praise God for that. And that's great. And, you know, I don't even want to get into the rabbit hole of the hospital and the racket of
Insurance
the pharmaceuticals,
and
but we kind of got into that discussion, me and Chef George. But then at the same time, we started talking about just in corporations in general. And we've talked about different companies, and I brought up In-N-Out, and I brought up Chick-fil-A, and a few companies that, by the way, newsflash, there's no corporation, no company that's perfect. It doesn't exist. But there's some serious companies out there that do a really good job at keeping culture. And we were talking about culture a little bit, and I'm not necessarily wanting to talk about culture today necessarily on training on culture, right, in a business. But I think that we've all seen the culture of this industry so much that um really, I mean, I've never even used this word, but I was kind of feeling this today as we were talking. Like a lot of chefs now are used. I'm not saying all, because not everybody is associating themselves that. A lot of chefs are used as a commodity. A lot of chefs and cooks are used as a commodity these days. It's like, well, you know, it's like there's a certain degree of level and qualifications that most companies and restaurants will say, okay, like, can the guy, you know, or gal cook and blah, 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 blah. But there's not a lot of recognition anymore for the creative talents and the passion and the effort and the hard work of chefs. And I think that that's unfortunately diminished. And I'll be honest, I think far and few companies have really valued chefs that way. As I don't want to say an investment. I mean, clearly, if you ask the company, they're going to say, "Oh no, of course we're investing. Like they're our chef, they're our team member." Like, but when it comes down to the bottom line, man, I've seen it with my own two eyes when I was an executive chef working at the Sheraton, where, you know, they're building this. It's so sad. I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but, you know, they're building this beautiful pool kitchen right down by the pool, and it was for the timeshares. And I'm doing a walkthrough, and it's like, you know, oh, we just need one staff member, like a cook 3 down here, just, you know, dropping fries, throwing a burger around, you know. And I get it. It's true. Like the person needs to cook good food and a burger, but like they started buying, like, this was not my decision. Unfortunately, I have to clarify, I was the executive sous chef at that time. And so the powers may be, we're talking about, you know, bringing in some more, you know, here's our frozen kind of breaded fish for our fish tacos in here. It was a lot of just like, you know, cut and paste stuff, you know, just cutting corners and just kind of whatever. And then I turn the corner as I'm touring the little kitchen, right? So there's like a fryer and there's like a 4-burner stove, and it's, you know, it's a small pool kitchen, right? It's not meant, I get it. It's not meant to be like, let's throw filet mignons out of here, right?
Yeah. Just poolside.
Yeah, poolside
treats.
stuff. But then I go around the corner and I see this massive like margarita something maker. And the bartender, Steve, at
Like
the time.
like a machine, you mean? Like a
Yeah,
margarita
but it was like
machine?
a machine, but then there was like something else. I don't even know. It was like, I thought it was overkill for a pool, to be honest, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. It was this massive black machine. It can blend, it can do all this stuff.
So
But
it's something
then,
that they bought to.
yeah, but
Okay.
then it was like there was something, I don't even remember. There was something else. Then they have like a full-on espresso maker down there for a drink that they were serving. Okay, so now here I understand that you're trying to like elevate
It's like
the
a
quality of the
$5,000
drink,
espresso
right?
machine, probably 10,000.
Bro, they dropped like 14 grand on everything.
Yeah.
I even asked Steve, like the bar manager, and I'm thinking like, and then my budget for the cook was like $15 an hour, right? Like just find some.
They make more money on drinks.
I get it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's like, now again, am I using this example not to say, you know, we should find a 5-star chef to go down to the pool? No.
Right.
But it's like, can we find a qualified person to like have some good food? Because they have, I mean, you should have seen this place. I don't know if Danielle remembers, like she probably, my wife remembers probably like the main pool area, which is, you know, we had like fresh burgers and stuff up there, but this was Marbrisa. So this was like, we called it down the hill because the property is huge.
Yeah.
But they had like a sand area down there. They had palm. I mean, it looked like a resort. And I'm thinking, and they're like, this place is going to crush it. We're going to do 300-400 covers a day in the summer. And I remember when we opened, and even after a month in the midsummer, I mean, it was
nobody was down there.
No, people were down there, but it was like low sales. And I'm thinking, well, who's going to hang out down here buying a $14 whatever when they're having a fish taco? Like, that's my opinion. Like, again, we're not saying you got to elevate.
So you're saying like between the food that they're serving, didn't line up with kind of the experience that they were.
That's the way I feel. Yeah, that's the way I feel.
$14 drinks mixed with like a little.
And you deal
sampler.
like, and I hate to say it, but you deal with it. But again, that's the problem with a lot of suit and ties, as I call them, that are out of touch with like, okay, I get the investment of the machine. You're right. The drinks make a lot more money, right? But just going down to the pool with drinks, here's the complaints we got. Now, let me get to this part. Several times I was down there to check on Stephanie, who was our cook at the time down there that I hired. And she was great. You know, she was super clean, super organized. Like, she held her own. She was a little bit like, even within 2 weeks, she was already like, chef, I'm not trying to like step out of line here, but like, I can like make a batter and fry fish. And I'm like, I know. Right. It'd be cheaper, but whatever. I mean, they just, you know, whatever. Marbrisa was a little bit of a different beast because it was technically like we were staffing it, but it was like separate entities, even though it was all same company. Anyway, I won't get into all that, but so I did have my hands a little tied down there. Okay. But when I was down there, the 2 times in the first 3 weeks I was down there, they see me with my chef coat, right? The name, right? So I'm coming down and I look like of somebody importance, right? I got my slicked back hair, you know, doing my chef thing, my long white, you know, apron, blah, blah, blah.
Looking the part.
I looked the part, right? Every time I went down there, Brock, every single time, a customer would get out of a lounge chair and make their way to me to complain about the food. About,
what were the complaints?
The quality. They just felt like, because now here's what I didn't realize. I found out they have to pay an additional fee, resort fee, to get part access to the pool and to this new restaurant down there. Premium. So it was supposed to be a premium. Access. Now, I didn't know that. I thought it was like whoever's staying in the villas and whoever's staying in the timeshare. It wasn't that way. Okay. So they come up to me and it was constant.
So they're paying to get access and then paying more to get the actual food.
Here's what they said. They're like, because we had like, it's so embarrassing to say this, we had a shrimp Caesar on there and they wanted already pre-cooked shrimp. So it was literally a Caesar salad tossed with dressing that we didn't make.
Just a quick turn.
And then it was defrosted cooked shrimp, like cocktail shrimp on a salad. Okay. This lady
doubles as cocktail, and
which we didn't even have a shrimp cocktail on the menu, which maybe I should
have made more sense.
That would have made more sense. So this lady comes up and she's like respectful. She's not like, but she could tell she's pretty heated. And she's like, you know what? Like, me and my family, like, we've gone to Cabo, we've gone to different places in California, and like, you know, we wanted to have a resort experience here. We're on vacation, and like, this is what she said, honest to God. She's like, I got the daiquiri and it was amazing. They're, you know, using fresh fruit and blah, blah, blah. Right. She's like, I ordered the shrimp Caesar. And I get like, this is what she told me. This is literally her exact words. She goes, I get hometown buffet shrimp cocktail on a salad,
Mm.
right? What the hell do I say to her? I'm like, look like the idiot here,
Right.
right? With the
Yeah.
code on and everything. I can't say, well, it's out of my control and the high ups. I mean, you know
I mean, you
what,
could
man?
if you were horrible at your job.
Correct. But I'm not that kind of guy. So I said, I literally said, you know what, ma'am, that shouldn't, that unfortunately is not up to the standard that you expect here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have us from our room service in the main kitchen, and I'm going to bring you down a fresh Caesar salad. So I appreciate it. The next one was, okay, this one person called it out. You guys are using frozen hamburger patties. And we were. What can I say? It's like, and it just every single time it was something. And people think that people are idiots. Now, a majority of people can be idiots and they'll shove anything down their gullet. But in other areas, it's like if you're expecting a level of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing all this up, and it's a very small thing. I can tell you countless stories, right? But even the top companies now, unfortunately, some things are out of their control that they've had to make adjustments, but they always go to, in a way, they have to almost go to the labor and then next to quality of the food or vice versa at the same time, or however you want to perspect it. And they're trying to draw revenue. So you go into these beautiful, sometimes restaurants where they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on making it look good, like this resort. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It legitimately looked freaking incredible. There was like terracotta towel around certain areas. They had like 3 little putting greens. I mean, like if I was going to take a family on vacation and you go to these pool things, again, you're not expecting, sky high 5-star restaurant.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like saying, hey, if I'm going to buy some expensive drinks and I'm going to be here for 6
But it
hours,
it should be a 5-star poolside experience.
Correct.
For what it is.
Correct. And I will give shout out to like the Grand Del Mar before I went Fairmont, not to put Fairmont down, but let's just be honest and call it what it is, because it's gone downhill a lot. But when we were in that hotel, Papa Doug was like, this, like he wanted the best. He's like, I want to get 5-star, 5 diamond. Like we didn't cut corners at all. Yeah. Like our fish tacos was like trimmings. When I say trimmings, like we would in our nice restaurant and even in banquets, when we would like break down Chilean sea bass at $34 a pound, we break down mahi, we'd break down whatever.
Right.
And on the menu, it just said fresh, like said fresh wild caught whitefish. Right. So like we really kind of used, it was never farmed like tilapia or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're sending out literally like pieces of sea bass, Chilean sea bass on a fish taco. Phil Mickelson would eat there all the time. Like he lives in Rancho Santa Fe, and he'd go 20 minutes and stay there for a week with his family to be by the pool. We had fresh burgers, amazing. We had an amazing, I have to say so myself. We had a very limited menu, but
everything was
super fresh, right? Like Cajun, we had a blackened Cajun chicken sandwich that was really yummy. And of course, like all of our bread was made in-house from the pastry department. So like brioche buns, we didn't buy like the tortillas, but we didn't make them, but like they were.
But you sourced them high quality.
Yeah, they were high quality corn tortillas from a local company that sells chips all around the United States.
Some of that makes sense.
So all those things, but it's like it matched up. You're staying $600 a night in a room. You expect to go to a pool and like, again, it's not Addison. It's not 7-course tasting menu for $500 a person.
Right.
But we are charging $18 for 3 fish tacos. They need to be really good. Yep. Right. Everything was fresh. And so again, like you got Phil down there, and I remember walking by him, he was plain Jane. He liked his fish with like just pico, and then he did like lettuce instead of cabbage, right? With like no cream. But he would always say, man, it's just, chef, they're just so good. I just can't stop eating them, And it's like, okay, it's a fish taco, but it's fresh, it's delicious.
Right.
And trust me, we got hammered down there. And that we did 400 covers. But see, that's the thing. Why? It's not because the food was just so good. It's the whole experience.
Yeah, everything.
And that's the thing that I was going to say is like, again, companies nowadays, they don't really care about the staff, which means they'll say they do. Well, right? They say they do.
But look at companies.
But do they really?
But look at a lot of companies nowadays. It used to be that a lot of companies were ran as kind of like, they call them the mom and pop companies, right? It was because it was owned by mom and pop. Like they were actual individuals who were single people who started the company and ran in a particular way, who really solidified the culture based on their personality, based on what they were wanting to do. And they really had a heart for what they were doing. But a lot of companies now, the further that we go, you've got so many investment firms, equity firms that are buying out these companies. So you see Del Mar and you're able to source that back to, okay, Papa Doug, right? You
Yeah,
see
it's
Fairmont, and
true.
it's like, who do you source it back to?
Yeah, you can't really. Yeah.
Big corporation,
Yeah.
right? So like investment people, the suit and ties, right?
Mhm.
And suit and tie people they get they get a lot of flack for that. And people, you start painting a picture of like
That corporate
suit and
exec
tie,
and
corporate
yeah,
exec,
yeah.
they're all the same. And it's
It's
not
not true.
it's not true,
It's not true.
but there is an issue there. It's like car salesmen,
But a
right?
majority of
A
them,
majority of car
unfortunately,
salesmen get
yeah.
a bad rap because they're
Yeah.
just kind of sleazy, and that's
Yeah.
just kind of a culture that, not all of them. But the problem with the corporation and the structure is exactly that. It makes me think of, coming from the outside, I think hotel. I think, okay, so starting from the top, you've got the top level team, the executives, right? And they're running the company, but they're running the company based on numbers and more
Mhm.
like practical business sense than a heartfelt, like, what do we got to do to build the best customer experience? Like, I'm not worried about focusing on the numbers as the result. I'm worried and focusing on the experience. The numbers will come
Yeah.
as part of that experience.
Yeah.
What happens is that kind of attitude then trickles down throughout the business. And when you look at a hotel, right, and you've got the pool side, of course you've got restaurants, and some of these hotels have, really well-known restaurant establishments. It's still, I almost see them separate, but like under together, where the people who are running the hotel are making decisions about the hotel overall,
Yeah.
which is numbers on how many rooms do we got, cleaning service, like all these practical operational business ran things, right?
Mhm.
But then it comes down to the restaurant, and they're trying to run it the same way. They're
Yeah.
trying to run it under that same umbrella, and it doesn't work, because a restaurant at the end of the day is, the numbers will be good only when the experience is good, like you're saying.
Correct.
But they focus on the numbers so much that then the experience becomes secondhand, and they only
Bingo.
try to fix the
Bingo.
experience based on, where are our numbers
Bingo.
lacking. Oh,
Bingo.
well, we can measure this on a spreadsheet,
Correct.
so let's reduce the cost of the food here. Let's skip on making this in-house, homemade, and let's outsource this to some company.
And this is the other thing that I was going to say too, is like, because you're dead on. And I was talking to Chef George, like I said earlier, and I was telling him, and we've talked about it before on the show, is like, you can't measure on a P&L.
Mhm.
I mean, you can, but in a sense, like, it's not a line item on a P&L.
Right.
Culture, right?
Yeah.
Vision,
Right.
mission, right? It's not a line item. What's funny though is that it affects, probably more importantly, almost all aspects of the bottom line.
Mhm.
And people that don't understand that, like, again, did I go to Harvard Business School? No. Did you go to Stanford Business School? No, you probably could have. We didn't go to these. Well, you went to business school, but we didn't go to these Ivy League. But you still start to realize, like, the most successful companies, like even In-N-Out.
Yep.
In-N-Out doesn't serve a frozen hamburger, and it's a fast food joint, right? And again, when you hold true to the values, when they're actual good values, I will give a shout out. That was some of the best, like Chef Jason. Shout out to Chef Jason. He was my chef mentor. And I owe a lot of my career and my thought process of really service, guest oriented, do not cut corners, shut your mouth, and you're not here for you.
Mm-hmm.
He really instilled that, like, really stern with me, right? When I got to the Grand Del Mar Hotel, I loved working at the Ritz-Carlton Chicago. In my time there, I was a young buck, right? I was in my low 20s, I think 21 or 20. I started there when I was 20 or 21. It was Condé Nast Traveler's best hotel for 7 years straight. It was 5-star, 5 diamond. I mean, the service was second to none at that hotel. Everything we did, from, like I said, the chef concierge, who is unfortunately John Winky. He's unfortunately passed away. If you Google right now John Winky, there's probably, I don't know how many thousands of probably articles about this guy. This guy was like, got keys to Chicago, keys to the city, like 6 times from like 3 different mayors. Like,
Do those keys actually work? Like,
yeah, I wish they did. That'd be pretty cool. He actually said that at one time in one of our,
Oh,
because
dude.
he would actually come. They would take him out of his busy day to come in orientation. Every time they had orientation once a month, right, for new employees and stuff. Like he would come and share stories because they knew like this guy's the epitome of what we do, right? But everything was like that. If you weren't like that, you didn't fit in. It was kind of like you were not, like you wouldn't be there very long, right? It had to be a level of like, even if we made a PB&J, it was like a triple decker PB&J, and it had to be like perfect crust cut off.
Yeah.
And it had to be like, you know, and if the bread would just get even a little stale sitting like on the line for 5 minutes, like the chef would make you redo it.
Right.
But we literally, like for room service, he made us put a damp cheesecloth over it and then put the lid on it. And so when they get there, they take it out.
With excellence, though,
dude, like crazy. So cause imagine, like if you're a kid and you're coming, how many times have you had that PB&J? It's like crusty, but it wasn't toasted.
Yeah.
Right. Like just little details like that.
Some of these kids, you know, eating that PB&J, they probably don't even understand like
they don't
how we eat PB&J.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. But like, but here's my whole point. Like the Grand Del Mar, so the Ritz-Carlton, when I was working there, was like really a standard that really ingrained a lot of this in my mind. Right. As that was more of like, I was somewhat management when I left there. I was the assistant Garmin J chef. So yeah, I was second in command in the Garmin J department. But I still didn't hit my stride as like the official, like kind of sous chef or even like chef de cuisine status. That kind of came down the road. And I won't even talk about me opening a hotel. Was a great experience. But unfortunately, the leader that I was under was narcissistic, senile Frenchman who, you know, seemed like he was drunk behind the wheel every day. But that's another story. But when I came to the Grand Del Mar, and I was there, I started as a sous chef in Amaya, which is our 3 meal a day restaurant. Like, it was made very clear from the very beginning, this hotel is going to get 5 stars and 5 diamonds. Like 5-star at the time it was mobile, but at Forbes, and then 5-star or 5 diamond from AAA. And legitimately, like in every interview, that's what they talked about. Then when you got to the employee, like again, there were so many good people there.
That was when you went through the process to get 5-star, right? You went through that process with the guy from Forbes, right? Or was he from?
Correct. Yeah, actually, Jennifer was the consultant.
Jennifer.
But the gentleman that I know now that works in Forbes was actually our experienced director at the time.
Right.
So he ended up going to work for Forbes because he's that good. He was also an experience. He was the guest. He was what they call the dream maker experience director for Walt Disney World for like 9 years. So basically when somebody is, you know, has cancer and we want to make their dream come true, and we think of creative ways on how to do that everywhere in the park,
whole experience.
That's what he does. Right. And basically like Disney, to be honest, he was telling me like, they don't have a budget when it comes to that. Like they don't like, okay, the kid or the person.
Oh, we'll give this kid $50,000, right? It's like
pretty much like they'll spend whatever. Like they don't care. Like it wasn't about like half the time they wouldn't even make the kid like pay for it, you know, whatever. He was he would tell us experiences about that. And what's funny, he would tell us stories about Disney at the Grand Del Mar.
Well, that's still nice to hear about Disney.
It is. You know. It is. Yeah. Like you said,
it's one thing that, you know.
And I said, why'd you leave there? And he goes, and this is what he said. Like, honest to God, he goes, why'd you leave there? And he goes, Florida's hot. And I said, well, what about Disneyland? He goes, nah, I'm okay. Like, because he did end up transitioning into the hotel space for Walt Disney, like the hotel side of it. But he said, like, they did not hold back. Like some of the stories gave me like goosebumps, man. Like really, like he would say like, oh, sometimes we'd have a fireworks show just for like a kid. We're talking about like $100,000 worth of fireworks, and the kid didn't even pay to get into the park.
That's crazy,
right? Like, but Disney's smart because that story will spread.
Oh yeah,
forever,
of course. Yeah.
Right?
It's not like they're not getting.
And it's not like
still. It's nice.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to this, the reason I'm bringing up the Grand Del Mar is because, again, I think that as well, and this is what we teach in your guys' business. You guys might be, and I want to tie it back a little bit. Like, if you guys don't know what your vision or your mission is in your business, if you're not really understanding like what it is that you want to accomplish, like the customer definitely won't know. Because if you don't know, and the reason I'm saying this too is when I get to the Grand Del Mar, like I said, every interview was about 5-star, 5 diamond. And then my orientation, oh my gosh, Papa Doug himself, the owner, came in and he literally, with a big smile, like, man, I'm so excited to see these people. Like, he wouldn't come to every orientation because trust me, I went through a few of them with some new people. And sometimes we had a re-go through it when there was like major updates and per se, because obviously as managers, like I was a manager at the hotel. So like, but he would come through every once in a while and basically say, here's our goal. We won't stop until we get that goal. You're either with us or you're not. And he was pretty blunt about it. Now, he wasn't saying it in a mean way. I mean, these are new team members,
Right.
but every detail was accounted for. And it was really easy because there was a mission. And the mission is how, but then this is the key point. It wasn't, let's just get 5-star, 5 diamond. The way we're going to get it is to deliver unmatched, untapped, psycho level, amazing 5-star experiences. That's how we're going to get 5-star, is not by let's just try to pay and earn our way through it. It's every detail. It's every single detail about every single thing that really made the key. And when I went through that whole thing, I got to give a shout out. I mean, I'm sure none of them watched the show, but Tom Voss was our general manager. Tom Voss was a beast. Tom Voss was a German guy, general manager, strict, amazing guy, nice, but strict on standards. He did not waver a freaking second. I mean, the food and beverage director, Ekram, another amazing guy. We had a freaking amazing team. I mean, everybody was like A players. It was no like second. Like, that's why like I felt very blessed just to be a sous chef, and then eventually I became the banquet chef. So I felt really proud. But I mean, we're talking about A-list players, and Ekram would come in, right? Ekram was a beast. He was our food and beverage manager. Chef, how's it going today? Good, sir. Good. How are you doing? Good. What do you need? What are you missing? You know, how's the oven? Did they come fix that oven yet? No, they're not. Picks out his cell phone. Then one hour, I come back from a BEO meeting. The freaking guy's underneath it fixing it from some company. He didn't play around. Why? Because he knew I need my ovens to give 5-star experiences. Yep. That's how he perceived it. But there was times where Tom Voss would be in the same room with Ekram, and Tom Voss would be like, Ekram, why is this going on? Mm-hmm. How did that happen? And it's not like he's chewing him out in front. I mean, it was a manager meeting. It was food and beverage meeting. Tom Voss wasn't playing games. It was like, why did that happen? And Ekram's like, you know what, sir, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. You know, this is what, and then Tom Voss would say this is the Grand Del Mar Hotel. That's it. There is no second best. Right. We are supposed to be the best. Yeah. And so he would encourage that. And although you feel like there's a lot of pressure, believe it or not, if you guys have that same drive and ambition in your business and you hold yourself to high standards, and as you know, hopefully we have the opportunity to coach you in some way, even in the 5-day challenge. You know, coaching is about accountability. There's accountability, but there's also standards that you have to follow in order to hit those. But you have to have a mission and a vision to get behind. And if you don't know that and it's unclear, so again, like you were saying, now that it's a Fairmont, the Fairmont as a corporation has the lofty customer experience is our number one priority, and all this stuff, and it's writing on a wall, but there's no follow through. It's like, yeah, that's our number one priority as long as we're making budget and whatever, and like employees are getting paid half days.
It's because you've got a line of individuals at the top, and they've all got different agendas. They've all got different styles of leading, and there's not one true. It's got to be triangular. It's got to go to a point where there's few. Yeah. 1, 2, maybe 3 people, but unless they're all greatly aligned, correct, it's like a good marriage. It's like a good family. Right.
It has to be aligned. It has to be aligned.
If the husband and the wife are aligned and they're on the same page about every single aspect, from discipline to how they encourage their kids to how they talk about issues, like every single point, unless there is alignment there, then the kid's confused because it falls apart. Mom's this way, dad's this way. I get a yes over here, but I get a no and a strict over here. And it's confusing where you have to be aligned, and leaders have to be aligned. That's the problem when a lot of them come from investments.
You know what's so funny too, Brock, about this is that Papa Doug, I mean, he's the one paying for it all, right? But what I loved about it was like sometimes Tom Voss was like, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. That's not going to benefit. Like, that's not going to accomplish the mission. And I would see some pushback. I mean, we're talking about the owner who pays your salary, but there was pushback sometimes, like very rarely.
But the pushback was towards the same mission.
Correct. So that's where it's like, that's where Papa sometimes would be like, all right, Tom, like, and he's the only one that called him Tom, not Mr. Voss, right? Everybody else called him, all right, Tom, this is why you're here. Mm-hmm. Exactly, sir. This is why I'm here. But he's a hotelier for 40 years. Yeah. He it's not like it's his first rodeo.
Then I'm sure Papa Doug gave Tom the respect and the room
And
to
the
make those
resources.
decisions. Yes.
I think that was an important
Because
part that
that's
we
a huge
saw,
thing too, is
right?
when the people at the top, they again, they have their own agenda and they have their own ego. When they allow that ego to get in the way and they don't allow the people, underneath of them within the hierarchy
Correct.
to do what they're really paid to do and to be there for, they don't allow that, then it demoralizes them. And then they
Correct.
end up feeling forced to make the decision based on someone else's
Yeah.
kind of perspective, which is what I saw a lot when I was in corporate, was like, oh, well, we don't have no say. So we need to just communicate this down and communicate it this way. And it's like, you take a one look at it and you're like, this is bullshit. Like
Yeah.
this is a horrible way
Yeah.
to do this. The other problem that I see with like corporate and what a lot of people experience is, unless you're in the Del Mar, because you made a really good point, is that the Del Mar, any company that has really high standards, right? And they're strict about those. And they create that culture where literally a person can say, this is the Grand Del Mar, and everybody knows what that means when it's
Correct.
said.
Correct. Yeah.
Unless you have that, here people love to be called up. They love to be called up. So when you get into a job with a restaurant or a hotel or somewhere in the industry, when you get into that, the problem isn't the strict standards and the really high standards that
Mhm.
are really hard to attain, right? Not impossible.
Yeah.
Everything's possible,
Yeah.
but you have to have all those A players on that team. The problem isn't when you have that. The problem is when you actually don't have that. And then
Correct.
people are wondering, and they think a lot of times, this is our kind of reptile brain that takes over, is when we're in these jobs, we go, oh, because I've heard people say it. I've heard friends like, oh, my job's really cushy. It's really great because I can work from home, and honestly, like, I can go out to the golf course, and as long as I message in here and there, like, nobody really knows. And but then they turn around, they're wondering why they're unhappy. They think that what they want is kind of that
Yeah.
relaxed atmosphere,
Yeah.
that laid back, like, there's nobody breathing over my shoulder. There's no boss that's like, hey, listen, we got to be hitting these marks and standards and coming at it with that tonality, but also, very respectable, not
Yeah.
psychotic, like the Frenchman, right? Or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
Horrible.
when they raise you up and they call you to high standards, people love that. And it's just like raising kids, right? Kids need that structure, they need that discipline. That's what we desire too when we go into a role, and we have respect for people who are calling us up to that, because we know that they're growing us, making us better.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
sometimes if we are in that environment where it's just been kind of laid out there
Yep.
that hey, the best, this is the best job because you can be kind of laid back, you're going to find yourself being unhappy.
And that's the thing too. And you said it, actually, you just proved to my point too, even more. It's like, it's a trickle down effect too. As these corporations and companies, they look at, like, they're not, let me put it this way, they're not making investments in good chef leaders anymore either, which also plays a huge role in building up the team.
Mhm.
What they do now is they replace with another set of hands that'll do it for cheaper, even the chef positions. That's what I'm saying. They don't even value that in very much anymore, unfortunately, at a lot of places. I'm not saying there's no places that don't do that, but that's kind of the whole key, is like, it really just, again, you access that just across the role and understanding the guide. Like, when you look at certain things like that, it really just shows you. And the industry has been, again, there's been a lot of outside influences, unfortunately, with the whole pandemic and things like that, has really caused a lot of restaurants to have to make some really tough calls and lose business, and a lot of them close down,
Mhm.
right? And it's really unfortunate. And to weather something like that, you had to have a good culture. Yes, you had to have a good product as well, but you had to have a good culture. You had to have certain things that you did, because even when you plan, the world will still
You know
hit
what I
you.
blame it on
You
ultimately?
know,
I blame it on a lack of faith. Not and
mm,
I'm not talking just like faith in God. I think that there's been so many people who have lost their faith, that good service like that can return
yeah,
an investment.
yeah, it's true.
And what they put their faith into is these practical kind of approaches to business. Well, we got to cut costs,
Yeah,
right? Well, we got to do food costing better. Well, we need to get a better vendor to get better deals, right? Well, we got to open up and adjust the hours. well, we got to advertise and market a
Mm-hmm.
different way.
Yeah.
And they lost their faith in the fact that you can just provide a really good service. And you know why I think that they lose that faith is because it takes time to see that, right? You mentioned it on
Yeah.
last week's show, is that uh, a country takes a long time to build and build correctly, right? With a really good culture and really good foundations. But it can be in one day or a week, it can be all torn down and it can be
Yeah.
destroyed,
It's true.
right? Just like in health as well. You
It's
mentioned
just like
health
the
as a
hotel. You can get
metaphor.
the 5-star,
It
and
takes a
then
long time to
2
get
weeks
that
later you
six
can lose
pack.
it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
takes a long time to get that six pack. It takes a long time to build that muscle and get that health and get really strong and fit. But in a weekend, you can destroy it by binge drinking and eating a ton of junk food,
Yeah.
right? Um, it's the same thing with faith in restaurants or a faith in customer service, right? Like world
Mm-hmm.
class service, is that it takes longer sometimes to get that referral, that word of
Yeah.
mouth, people talking about the experience, because you have to have a lot of people coming through. The experience has to be really consistent, and it has to give them something to focus in on, talk about,
Yeah.
right? Which is that niching down. It's niching down within the service. What are we going to do with our service that gets people really like feeling like
Really
they have to
wowed.
talk about it?
Yeah.
What is it going to do for them that gives them a status to go out and share with their friends? And restaurants don't take enough time to think about that and construct a tactic or a strategy to do that. That doesn't, a lot of times doesn't cost you any money, but it requires you rallying your team around, getting together and in alignment, and then going out and executing on that service and what you're going to do, whether it's the littlest thing like saying my pleasure at
Yeah.
every interaction, or if it's making sure that when you sit people down that you are plating up right in front of them and giving them an experience. I used to take my wife to a little restaurant called Biaggi's, an Italian restaurant in Des Moines, and we would like kind of the service of, they would come around. It's really simple, right? But like, and a lot of high end restaurants do it, but they set the plate out, they put a little bit of oil on there, they put some Parmesan cheese, right? A little, then they crack a little cracked pepper, and then they give you your bread basket, and it's all freshly made, different kinds of breads, and then you're able to just sit there and kind of eat that, right? But that's like an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to
I know.
macaroni grill because it
Oh
was
God.
Valentine's, and
So
we were obviously I was really naughty, and I didn't get
oh,
the right kind of, I didn't go out there early enough and get reservations, so I ended up at macaroni grill. But they bring out napkins that are the bathroom tissue napkins, and they
they're
set the
bathroom
and
hand
she
towels
the bathroom hand
that are
towels,
the
and
brown
she
ones. Oh
stacks
my
them, she
God.
sets them down, and they're stacked on the table, and then she's the hostess, she's our
It was bad.
waitress, and she's also the busser. And it was like all these things, and we're like, what is going on? And then at the bottom of the menu, they had written in small text, there's a 2% upcharge for macroeconomic conditions. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm never coming back here again. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
never going to
Yeah.
do that again. But that's a huge problem. And then here's the problem with a lot of chefs
That's
and
a
kind of the
perfect sign
mentality.
of corporate executives not knowing what that lady goes through.
So let me go into
Because the fact of the
the
matter
chef
is
side.
she actually was
She
like
did
a
really great.
sweetheart. She was
Yeah,
a
she was super sweet.
sweetheart, but she was so overwhelmed. She was basically like, I'm going to do the best I can, and that's
Right.
it.
Right.
If even that.
Well, yeah, because she didn't have time to do what
Correct.
she could. So she wasn't given the resources, right, of time and actual tangible things like napkins and things like that. So here's the problem with a lot of chefs that go in, right? There's chefs that go into the industry thinking, if I can just get into that position where I have a little bit of power and influence, I can change this place around.
Mhm.
I can help to influence because I know what great service is. I really know what great service, and I have a heart for serving. If I can just get there and I can influence and I can, take over this person's position because they're a psycho and they don't know what they're doing, and they're ruining this place. If I could just get into that, I can help to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And while there's all good intention behind that, the problem is the vehicle they're in. That vehicle is not going to change for them. It is so difficult to even first off get into that position because the company is not looking at that. They don't
Mhm.
care, right? They're not looking at that going, if they were, then they would have booted that person out that's kind of ruining the place a long time ago.
Yeah.
But if that person's been in rain for so long and they're, whether it is the executive chef or whether it's a general manager or whatever over the hotel or the restaurant, if that person's been in place for a long time, and that seems to be where the problem is, but they haven't been replaced and they've been there for 5, 10, 15 years, like, you think you're going to come in and just change that? No, like, that's
Yeah.
why we do what we do, is because that's not even the right vehicle, first off. But with that good intention, all you do is you take that intention. Why would you do that for somebody else that's really not going to care, instead of doing it for yourself and building your own business?
And
We're-
that's the freedom that you have. And I was going to segue into that. It's like, imagine a world where you can go nuts for a client and not have anybody tell you that you can or cannot.
Right.
That is what being a chefpreneur means. And I want to actually recommend a book. I've recommended it many, many times, but the co-founder of Ritz-Carlton, his name is Horst Schultz. He wrote a book called Excellence Wins. Read that book. The book will change your perspective if you're already jazzed up about, like, yeah, I want to give my clients the best possible service and experience, which really starts with, it's not about you, right? I mean, that book, and if you get the audio version as well, I mean, he reads it in his German accent, which is pretty funny, and he's very dry in a way, but it's a really good book. So either read it or listen to it. It's called Excellence Wins by Horst Schultz. Great, great, great book. And he talks about in the book about how he basically got consulted by Chick-fil-A, and he's the one that consulted him to say, my pleasure, right? Pretty much paid him $250,000. I think I looked it up. Like, I
I'm
think
sure
that's
there's
how much
much
they
of
paid
other
him.
things that he helped to do too.
Yeah, but that was pretty much about what it was down to.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's actually what caused, I don't remember what they call it. I got to ask Cooper at church because he works at Chick-fil-A, but they call it, I think, like a host. I think they still have like what they call a host, somebody in the dining room area, basically, right? Like, it's a fast food restaurant, but they still have somebody who's like just supposed to be in the lobby the whole time,
making sure that your cups are filled, making sure that you've got
correct
condiments.
And at the time, that's like Esther and Kathy doubled down on team members.
Yeah.
In that moment, and they were already in a hard spot, and they're like, the economy's heading down.
Because on the practical side, it's a fast food restaurant. Who would be sitting there going, amongst all the other fast food restaurants, if you were to compare yourself, why would you be sitting there going, well, even though we're a fast food restaurant, we can still provide kind of that, 5-star, service, human to human. It's like fast food. Fast means that there doesn't need to be interaction. We're just going to throw a bag out into your window, and you want to drive off. You still have that excellent service.
And I think that we all see the fruits of that
with
Chick-fil-A and how much they're crushing it, right? Again, it proves my point exactly. In-N-Out Burger, the same, right? Fresh burgers, fresh French fries. It's not a rocket science. It's soda, shakes, and burgers and fries. That's all it is. It's not kids meals. It's not chicken sandwiches, not Filet-O-Fish. Hopefully I don't get that edited. I don't know how this works on YouTube sometimes, but whatever. That's the whole thing. And the game is again, what are you guys going to do in your own business? You can set the standard. And sometimes you guys are like, hey, what's going to set me apart? Well, if you're a chefpreneur, you're already going to be set apart with the mindset that we want to instill to you of high level of service. And I think sometimes some of you might feel like, you know what, high level of service means I got to know Michelin star food. It's actually not the case. Again, we just talked about that in Chick-fil-A. Are you making people feel warm? Are you making them feel welcome? Are you making them feel like not only that you love on them, but you want to serve them from everything that you have in your being, how you talk to them. And honestly, even how your mindset is in approaching people, because so much, again, and this is something that I personally go through when coaching some chefs one-on-one, is that we're so caught up in a culture where I'm the chef, I know better, I want to do what I want to do, and you should be lucky that you're experiencing my creativity. And there's a time and a place for you to be like, hey, I'm gonna be creative, and it's part of the experience I want to give you. But like, I have to uncoach chefs sometimes to say it's not about you. How do you come at it with a servant's heart? How do you have a different mindset where it's like the customer in a way is not necessarily always right into a degree of what we're saying, but is always right in the approach of that their reality is their reality. And how do I get them to experience and see more value and over deliver with excellence in everything I do? If I'm going to do a simple egg salad sandwich, then I'm going to fricking do an egg salad sandwich, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. If I'm going to serve a bachelorette party and it's super casual, I'm still going to bring an element of, can I walk around? Can I pick up some trash for them? Can I take their plates, even though it's all disposable, whatever? Like, these are those little touches that you have no idea that you can do your job. They can be satisfied. They can have your experience and like, hey, everything checked the box. We want them to be able to check the box that's not there by being like, where do I check the went above and beyond psychotically for me box? It's not there. So I got all, most people, and this is why it's so easy. I mean, like I said, it's so easy to a degree, right? Nothing is quote unquote easy necessarily. That's good, but really, it's really a heart shift, a mind shift. And here's what I'm going to tell you. You want to know the secret sauce? Like Brock said, most people in today's society are looking for like the basics, like, hey, napkins that aren't from the bathroom hand towels in the bathroom, right? Macaroni grill. Hey, we got served our food. Can we have silverware? Right? These are basic standards that even Denny's gets right. Okay. Let's just call it what it is. The other side of it, though, and here's what I want you to really understand and focus on. The other side of this is people's expectations, unfortunately, have gotten lower. I just believe that because they're so used to it.
Easier.
Exactly.
So
to stand out.
Just go a little above.
Like if you just honestly, like if you hit the mark, you're already above the mark. And then if you go above the mark, you are in the stratosphere.
Right.
And at Chefpreneur, even internally, like
Geary, I teach him, and we're working through this because it's new for him. Geary and support. I've got just two simple rules right now for him, is because sometimes we get in a habit, and I've had a habit of this, that I had to break years back. But it's like you do something for somebody, and they're like, "Oh, thank you," and you say, "No problem." Yeah. It's like, no. It's not no problem. You say, "My pleasure," because it's my pleasure to serve you.
Correct.
No problem means that it's is it a problem? Would it have been a problem? Like,
yeah.
No, it's my pleasure. The other thing is that I don't care who the person is that we're serving, like whether they consider themselves a chef or don't consider themselves a chef, if they're just a home cook or whatever, is that we have this thing within Chefpreneur that as a sign of respect and how we're going to address everybody is we're always going to address everyone that we serve as chef. So if there's just a simple issue coming through with the software, they have a question, Gary's addressing them as chef and then their name. Like whoever it is. And it's as simple as little things like that they might not know it right off the bat, but they're going to feel it and it's going to lend to that.
Correct.
And it's all those little details that when you're doing that,
and that's the thing, is that we have to uphold our standards and our values and understand what our culture is inside Chefpreneur to be able to serve chefs. And there's a lot of cases where it's outside of our control, but we're still going to try to remedy the situation as much as possible within our control. And the reason is because that's what we do. And if there's any students that are listening in, feel free to share in the comments, like, hey, have you guys have gotten a world-class experience from Chefpreneur, not only with the training and what we teach, but honestly, like who we are. Because at the end of the day, also, like when we coach chefs and things like that, we're not sitting from some anthill saying that you're less than us and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. No, we're here to support you and win. And we say it all the time. If you're not winning, we're not winning. When we look at things like that too, that are not outside of our control, or that are outside of our control, might be something else that's, yes, there's limits and there's per se boundaries to a degree. And of course, with some of these things, but at the other end of the spectrum is like, what can we control? If we set that culture within Chefpreneur, in dinner with a chef in your business, if you set a culture where there's just, what can we do as much as we can do to make sure that they have a successful aspect and really have an amazing experience, and it's clear. And so like, we're constantly working on that. We're constantly making sure, even the 5-day challenge, like Brock was saying, we're freshening things up. We're trying to, how do we make the experience better? How do we maybe pull out some fluff that maybe there was some fluff? how much,
Is there a certain time of the day that works better for more people?
correct.
Is there a
Like,
certain length of time that the challenge should last that they would, that they feel is really good? So we
correct.
took all
And
that and we were making little adjustments that I think are going to really
exactly.
be
And I
great.
think that on those types of things, we have to get in that mindset. And it's easy to fall into a trap. Again, it's easy to fall into these things. You have to be intentional about, am I really doing everything I can for the client? Right. Like, again, to a degree, I'm not saying go out and buy him a Ferrari and drop him the key after every dinner. That's not what I'm saying. But what can I do to maximize the actual experience? And that can be a million things from Sunday. You can have it be a million things, but it's the simple things as well that just allow people to be guided. When I was when you read the excellent win, the book Excellent Wins by Hort Schultz, like, you'll find a lot of examples. I want to tell this one story, and I think I've said it before on the show, but I have to say it now because it kind of set it up. But like I was talking about earlier, John Winky at the Ritz-Carlton, right? And these two old ladies walk into the Ritz-Carlton. By the way, we actually have bellmen out front of the hotel because it's actually on the 12th floor is the lobby, right? The first 12 floors are the water tower place. It's basically the mall, a high-end mall in Chicago. So there's a bellman outside, and there's what we call a lobby attendant, right? So that as people going in, they're like, where do I go? Right? It's like, is this the Ritz-Carlton lobby? No. I mean, it's starting to feel that way because it's the entrance of it. But then you go to the elevator, go to the 12th floor, and either the 11th or 12th floor, I apologize, I think it was the 12th floor, was the actual lobby where like the check-in, counter is and all that stuff, or check-in is, and concierge and blah blah blah. And so these two old ladies come into the hotel, and they're being guided up to the lobby, and by the attendant, pushes the elevator, button for them. They're getting sent up. They come out, and John Winky's telling us the story in our orientation. And these two old ladies, literally probably in their mid 70s, he said, they're coming up, and they're just really sweet, right? They got their little, they got the bellman, brought up the bellhop, brought up their luggage, and they're just sitting there. They got their purses, and literally he said that they were like wearing white gloves, like they were very old school traditional ladies, and really sweet. And he's over here, as he's the chef concierge, by the way. He's the chef concierge. But at the time he was the director of what do you call it, front desk, basically, like the front office. And so, he's over here, and he's helping with this one client, this one guest, and they're just confused, and they're trying to find, they're giving them their last names. They can't find the reservation. So they're kind of like freaking out a little bit, like, we booked it months ago, and like, we can't find a reservation. So John kind of comes over, and he's kind of like, hey, let's dig a little bit more into this. Like, are you sure it was with our hotel? Like, sometimes, there is quite a bit of buildings here that look alike downtown. We have, it's downtown Chicago. There's a million different hotels when you throw a stick. And so they're going through, no, I mean, we're pretty sure it was the Ritz-Carlton, and they're going through, and they're trying to. So then John says, you know what? Why don't you guys take a seat over here? Well, would you guys like some tea? Like tea on us? So they sit down. He literally goes over, and he says that he walks them over to the hostess of at the time, it was just called the Cafe, but it was a 3 meal a day restaurant there, and that's where I was working. Was as a line cook in that restaurant. But anyway, he takes him to the hostess. The hostess, whatever, sits them down, and they're ordering some tea and whatever, some appetizers and things like that. So John comes back, and he says, what did I do? Well, I pulled, one of my team members in the back. I pulled them. Me and him. We started calling, and we just made a list of like 6 hotels within like a 3-4 block radius, and we started calling and calling other hotels, like to see if maybe they booked with another hotel. Well, they found out that they booked at the Knickerbocker Hotel, which the Ritz is, when you enter the Ritz, it's like right here, and then there's like another street, and then this is the back of the Knickerbocker. The Knickerbocker front entrance is on like basically 2 blocks over. So the ladies come back for tea. He calls over to the restaurant, lets the hostess know, hey, can you let so and so, Mrs. whatever, so and so, that we found out where their stay is at, and blah blah blah. So when they're done, right? So they finish up their tea and all that stuff, right? It's about 45 minutes later, and they come over, and we found out that you made a reservation at another hotel very nearby called the Knickerbocker Hotel. Now these women are 70 years old, right? They're not going to walk 2 blocks in downtown Chicago. He rolls out the Rolls Royce. He has the Rolls Royce waiting for them. The lobby attendant brings them down, puts them in the Rolls Royce, complimentary. So now they got a free appetizers and tea from the Ritz. They're getting chauffeured in a Rolls Royce to the Knickerbocker Hotel. Okay. They've spent zero money at the hotel. Okay. They get there, they get across over there. The driver of the Ritz-Carlton, which by the way was a Four Seasons hotel, walks them all the way to the front desk and said, these two young ladies, literally, he's telling us a story. These two young ladies thought that they reserved a room at the Ritz-Carlton, but they're actually with you lovely people. And so, you could take it from here and blah, blah, blah. And gives them a handshake and whatever, and they tip the whatever attendant, right? Long story short, literally 2 days later, they make their way into the Ritz-Carlton and they ask to speak to John. And one of them, the reason why they were at the Knickerbocker was that their son was getting married. I think second marriage or something. Anyway, he was having his wedding at the Knickerbocker. Her son, one of her sons, ends up being the CEO of some major company, right? Tells her son the whole story. The son now signs a 5-year agreement for all events done for his company in Chicago are going to be done at the Ritz-Carlton. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars probably over the next 5 years, right? Yep. All because of that. Now, did John say, "Hey, I did this to make money"?
He would have never known.
No, he would have never known. No. Well, they came back. It's funny because they came back and told him that.
Yeah,
right?
Is he thinking, well, if I give them a good experience, they might come. Maybe they'll book with us next time they're in town. Correct. Or whatever.
Exactly.
But you don't know what's going to happen.
And it just proved the point where it's like, now that is an elaborate story, and I know I went a little long, but I hope I told it well to get the punchline there. But that's another level. Like, that's so beyond what you would experience today. Like today, it's like, is the bathroom clean? I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's true.
And some of the chefs that we've honestly have worked with, that we've had to help them shift their mindset, they've been upset that somebody skimped them on $15.
I know,
right? Like,
yeah.
Well, they paid the invoice, but they shorted me $15, and it's like, and they're upset about that, and they let it ruin the whole thing. Right. Yeah, or they're worried about why would I spend an extra $15 to do X, Y, or Z to like get them a little bouquet of flowers or something, and tell them like that's coming out of my pocket. And it's like they forget the long-term play, right? Which is building that wonderful, solid relationship that they don't know whether it could return to them or not. But that's the problem, is that a lot of them won't make that choice, because just like investing in themselves, just like taking action on doing something or stepping towards their dreams, is because they sit there and they look at it and they go, well, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. So if I don't know if that's actually going to happen, like, why would I go and do it? Why would I even try?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
And well, you don't know if you're going to get in a car accident. Why would you even get in your car and try to drive across town?
Yeah, exactly. And so like, it was really an inspiring story. And by the way, again, it was a true story, and he had tons of,
yeah, it's a good book.
He told us, this was a real life story. This wasn't from the book. This was real life stories from John at the Ritz-Carlton when I worked there. And so how as a cook 3 do you sit there and say, well, I could just be half-assed and it'll be okay at this hotel? Like, he just told us a story where it's like, they didn't even spend money with us and we're giving them 5-star treatment. Like, it really lit a fire. And Chef Jason was, again, my superior at that hotel, and he held that value and culture very true. What's so weird is he was so talented, and he was arrogant, and he was different things about his food. But when it came to the clients and the guests of the hotel, there was no pride at all. It was like, we will bend backwards, forwards, sideways, whatever they need us to do to make it happen. If they want dog food at 3 a.m, they want a filet mignon medium rare for their cat at 3 a.m, we're going to freaking make it happen. And if we don't have a filet, go freaking cut one. It was like that, right? Yeah. Bruised apples. I've told that story. I got countless stories, and it's not to brag about even Chef Jason necessarily. It's about the culture that he instilled even within me. But that whole being in that environment, I was very blessed. It was like, it was surrounding by, and we had a couple people that were, it was a union hotel. So we had a couple people that were like kind of lost a little bit of that, and we had to keep them in line.
Yeah.
But again, if you get so far out of line, like now you're you will be reprimanded because there's no that it wasn't tolerated, right? It was there was grace. I mean, people make mistakes. Give me a break. I mean, did I have food sent back there at the Ritz? Yes. Was I supposed to? No. You're never wanting it to happen, but how you remedy the situation is what they did really well. It was always, how do we remedy the situation? And so anyway, guys, I hope it inspired you guys to understand that, like, when you are a chefpreneur and you have you're your own boss per se, but you're also the visionary in what you're doing and setting that culture and setting that tone. It becomes very freeing for you. You can really go the extra mile with people and say, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to serve. And I want to challenge you guys, give you guys a little challenging homework for this week. Like, challenge yourself. What can you do to elevate your excellence? Like, you know, don't just do okay. Try to do everything with excellence. Every little detail counts. And it really comes more from the heart than, again, luxury and lavishness. It's really the thought process that goes behind it. And so if you are a personal chef already in your next event, like, think about, what are ways that I can go above and beyond? What are ways that I can really take it to, from like meeting their expectations to just completely surpassing their expectations? And when you have this mindset and you're intentional about it, like, you won't have competition. Like, I don't care if a chef cooks better than you, they probably won't, if they don't bring that level of love and dedication and really that level of excellence of wanting to do as best as you can for the client. And also, by the way, here's just a quick word of wisdom. This is only going to hit some people. Don't try to get so elaborate on your freaking menus and your food. Don't try to do that. You want to know why? Because a lot of times you're over ambitious and overzealous, and then you don't even hit the mark with what you want to do. And I've said this, to myself, even, like, I'd rather have a really good piece of meat than have like some crazy, dish that looks like it has 16 components and it looks so beautiful on Instagram and on a plate. But then if I can't even freaking cook a steak right, like, if I want to cook like the best steak, what is the quality of the steak, all that. But like, don't overcomplicate things. People don't want things super complicated. And even if you could do the high end stuff, right, still keep it simple. Like, that's just a rule. And that's just more on the food part, but that could be honestly applied to anything. But at the same time, think about the ways that you can deliver excellence in every way possible. The little details, the little notes. Go to the dollar store and buy a thank you card with nothing in it. And it's $1 for a 5-pack or whatever it is. Like, buy it for $1. And that dollar will return so much fulfillment for your client and you. And honestly, it'll probably return thousands of dollars by just saying, you know what, I'm going to write a handwritten thank you note, right before I go into their house. Or maybe you're in the parking lot of the store that you just shopped at, and you're about ready to go to the client's house, and you pull out that thank you card, and maybe you just put on some grateful music and you just whatever. And you're like, man, I'm glad to be a chefpreneur. Let me write my client a note while I'm on this mode here and say, you know what? Thank you so much for allowing me to serve you guys during your daughter's graduation. And, it was such an honor and a pleasure and a privilege. And I just really appreciate every aspect that I've been able to help you guys celebrate. And hopefully I was able to help you guys create memories that'll last you forever. And that can be talked about with your daughter's kids in the future. I mean, just say what's from the heart. You don't have to be poetic. Just say what's from the heart. And when you hand them that envelope and they read that, it's just going to go. I mean, I'll be honest, they're not going to remember if the salmon was slightly overcooked. They're going to remember what you did and how you served them and the heart that you did it from, and you're going to win. But that's all I got for today.
All right.
Wrap that up.
One more shameless plug. If you guys are interested in wanting to join something that's really fantastic that no one else is out there doing, join our 5-day Chefpreneur Challenge, totally free. Starts next week, June 5th. You have until Sunday at midnight to register. Get yourself registered. We actually have a special little VIP package as well that includes a bonus VIP sales training that happens on Wednesday. Plus, you get access to all the replays, all the slides. This is a free training, guys. So if you want to get yourself really started and finding your first or next client, plus getting yourself a system in place for your business that is repeatable, that will continue bringing you clients over and over and over again, join that challenge. We're going to show you all of that and more in 5 days. And these are just hour-long sessions each day. So it's really simple, really easy. And we got At this point, we've got what are we, about 500 registrants, I think, so far,
Probably
more.
over that, probably like 700
700
registrants, I
registrants at this
think.
point.
Yeah.
So this is something really huge. This is a big movement, and this is something that's happening. It's happening fast. There's a huge wave. It's continuing. We started this several years ago, and the wave is only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So grab your surfboard, show up next week, take a ride with us, and we're going to train you in all things personal chef business. Other than that, it's Brock Wagner, your host, Chef Andres Hinojosa. It's been a great week. Thank you for joining our
Thank
show.
you guys.
And we will see you next week live at 5 every Wednesday.
See you guys next
See you
week.
later.
Take care. God bless.